Okay, so today we are going to discuss the Ranger, and this is the art. We'll begin with that. And it is a two-page spread with the thief on the other side. As we get to the thief, I'll show you them both. They're thematically connected. So the Ranger is a wilderness warrior with a lot of stealth and wilderness survival skills, which are very important in RIN. Um, and the Ranger, as you can see, this is kind of his element out in the wilderness. This an old ruined temple or building that he's exploring, an old mine or an old stronghold. And in the far distance, there is a big, giant green dragon preying on the region. Could be friendly, could be hostile, but he's at the top of a large hillside or mountain. It's kind of a cloud around him. Either he's producing it, or it's actually that high up that it's a massive, colossal dragon. And that kind of captures the essence of what the Ranger class is about. So, proceeding onward, um, the Ranger has really good agility and con. In RIN generally, this is the good spread: 1 through 25, 26 to 75, and 76 through 100. Plus 1, plus 2, plus 3. So strength and con con and agility very high. Strength is still good, can get as high as plus 3. It's just weighted more toward the bottom and can be as low as 0. And then charisma and intellect at range anywhere from bad -2 to good. They're not as important for the rangers statistically, but you can have rangers. They tend to be more gruff and isolated. They can be less educated or intelligent, but they can also capable of being fairly intelligent, charismatic if you put the points in that way. Hit point base 6 plus 4 times strength, 4 times con, 4 times agility. Just like the barbarian, 4 times for strength, con, agility. Large bonuses from those, but a smaller. The barbarian has a much larger base number, so he progresses again. He kind of survives off of his strength, his toughness, his agility. That's how he survives in battle. The ranger begins with huntsman, marksmanship, and wilderness lore. Huntsman. The ranger gains a bonus damage die with all attacks made against large and huge foes. He may also, so that's a key thing. He's just better at dealing with large, and there are a lot of large enemies, giants, beasts, but there are also large undead. There are large other types of creatures. So he always gets a bonus against them. He is a slayer of monsters. And they also embark upon a hunt for a designated prey, such as a band of orcs, pack of wargs, or hill giant prowling the region. While on the hunt, he gains +1 on all rolls made to find, capture, and kill his prey. The bonuses remain in effect as long as he pursues the prey until he begins a new hunt. In addition to all their advantages, Huntsman grants him bonuses to hit points. So it's just kind of the concept of the Huntsman. Good at slaying large creatures. You're dealing with large monsters, threats in the region, getting bonus damage there. Also, he can embark on a particular hunt. So there's a band of orcs we need to pursue. Well, I start a hunt for orcs, +1 to every roll: attack, defend, damage, proficiency checks, stealth checks against them, pathfinding checks, everything. It's very useful and very effective. You can just have one hunt going at a time. And particularly, you could make it a little broader. Like, let's say there's a group of creatures. They're led by an ogre, and there's some orcs. You could say that whole group is designated as the hunt. It's up to the GM how generous he wants to be, but generally, it's the target of what you're hunting. So very often the ranger, if you're playing a very stealthy, intelligent ranger, you sneak in, you see what the monster is, then you start a hunt. All your bonuses for the next combat are at advantage. You climb a pie, get in a tree. You can be very, very strategic with it, or you can just run in guns blazing if you want to play that way. But the ranger tends to be more of a stealth person. Additionally, you get a big hit point base. The idea of just being a rugged huntsman dealing with monsters, slaying beasts, you get these bonuses to extra hit points. It can get quite large. You can play a completely tanky ranger, and that's perfectly valid. You're just good at slaying large monsters. You track them down, and you can take a beating in combat. And the bonuses get quite large. Next, marksmanship. The ranger is a master of bows, slings, and ranged combat. When he fells an enemy at range, he gains a free shot against another foe. He may do this a number of times per round equal to his agility. And then you also have the percentile points you divide among your specific subfeatures. So again, some same amount of points, very different ranger. You can build a lot of different types. So the key of dropping enemies, you drop an enemy, it triggers a free attack, a free shot. You can just chain them. It's a really nice feature. It's kind of thematic. If you look at Legolas in Lord of the Rings movies, he's just orc after orc he's dropping. A lot of concepts of just stringing, dropping enemies as they're coming up to you. It's a pretty solid fantasy concept. Robin Hood, Errol Flynn just picking people off, same kind of thing. So you get bow mastery, which is just a large damage bonus if you just want expertise in any kind of bow damage. Again, range attacks, if you want to use a sling, if you want to use throwing weapons, you can. Those are usually side things, but if you want to play that kind of ranger, you certainly can. Brawn gives a bonus to armor, prowess, vitality, and damage. It's actually very cost effective because the ranger, to me, if you want to make him tough, you can make him extra tough, and he's actually more effective if you want to be that really rugged, unusually tough ranger, +2 armor, +2 prowess and vitality, +2 damage, put 40 points in. But brawn, well, the ranger is not as brawny as other warriors. If you want to play him brawny, you can build him that way. He can be the really rugged, tough ranger. Called shot, once per round making the attack, the ranger can perform a called shot targeting a vulnerability in a foe. Such an attack ignores armor, gains agility and con as a damage bonus, and use a d12 for the attack die. So again, when you improve the die check from a d10 to a d12, it only fumbles on a 1. That's only 8% of the time. On a 10 or plus on the die roll, you've got a crit. So you're getting extra damage die, you're hitting automatically, and so forth. And so you're ignoring armor, you're getting agility and con, so anywhere from +2 to +6, depending on what your stats are. It's ignoring armor, and you're using a d12. So it's just that one really strong, powerful shot, you can perform. And again, if you're just getting your one shot per every round, every round you can do a called shot. So you normally get one attack per round just under normal rules. So you can just ignore armor. Creature has a 6 armor. You're ignoring the 6 armor. You're gaining +6 damage, and you're using a d12 to crit more likely. It can definitely work really well. And again, a lot of beasts, giants have heavy armor, so it fits that. Large creatures tend to have higher armor ratings. Celerity. Once per round, the ranger gains a free shot against a foe who closes within or withdraws from in melee, twice per round, thrice per round. So again, you got monsters running up to you. You just trigger a bunch of free shots. They run away from you. It triggers free shots. Now, typically, the one rule in RIN, one restriction, if you have a ranged weapon out and you move out of melee, it does trigger a free attack. RIN doesn't normally have things like that. But the one thing is, if you kind of are either unarmed or if you just have a ranged weapon, it does trigger a free attack. So you can't just always move unless you take another ability that lets you do that. But you can trigger a bunch, and you get a bunch of orcs. You get a shot against 3 of them run up to you, just one shot against each orc. And if you drop one, you can trigger another one. So again, you can get a lot of shots that way. High ground. When shooting down upon a foe from a height of at least 10 feet, the attack gains +d4 damage. So again, for the strategic ranger, just an extra d4 damage when you're up high. You climb a tree, ambush people. It can definitely, for a strategic type of ranger, can give you a nice damage bonus. Man at arms. Once per round, in addition to his range attacks, the ranger may quickly draw a melee weapon, attack with it, then immediately re-equip his bow. If the ranger has no offhand AT penalty, he may also attack with his offhand weapon. So you can, shoot with your bow and attack with main melee really quickly. And the idea is you just kind of a flurry of just, almost I think really it's inspired actually by, I always loved the Heroes of Might and Magic 2 Archer, where he pulls a dagger out of his boot and stabs as his retaliation. Now, he doesn't have this ability where he gets a range in a melee attack, but it's kind of, you see that. And you see that another like Legolas, he attacks with his arrow in melee, stabs that orc, and then shoots. You see it in a lot of action movies. It's kind of cool idea. And so if you want to be, normally the ranger is more of it's really an archer for the most part, but then if you want to have that melee element, you can do it, and it can actually be very effective. Near range, the ranger gains +d4 damage while within 30 feet of his target. The ranged melee penalty is negated. So normally, if you're right in melee with someone, there's a -2 penalty, and he no longer provokes free attacks when moving out of melee with his bow drawn. So again, 30 points in near range, 20 points in celerity. You're running around. the foes have to come to you, and you're just triggering a bunch of free shots. That can be a great concept. You can find it with Man of Arms at higher level, and you get a bunch of points, and you can just be a little whirlwind of death in melee and range. Precision. Long range is extended 3 times instead of 2, and penalties for long range, concealment, and cover, and mounted archer are negated. So high levels, you get a Pegasus mount or something, just fly around on it and slaughter things, and you're pretty much untouchable. You can if creatures are concealed, if there's really long range shots, shoot an apple while someone's at no penalty. In an archery tournament, no penalty. You just at long range. It's it definitely fits the idea. Rapid shot. Once per round when making a range attack, the ranger can perform a rapid shot firing 2 arrows. So this just gives you you can just get an extra shot essentially. So you get 2 from rapid shot. You can drop it. So as you can see, you can chain all this stuff. It can get really fun. Ranger Knight. The ranger gains +1 attack dependent damage with a number of melee weapons equal to his agility. So again, if the ranger wants to just focus on some melee weapons, be more, take Man at Arms, take Ranger Knight, be a little more melee oriented, it can be done, and they're not going to be as effective as like the barbarian or warrior if they but they're still effective, and then they have the great ranged abilities. Sure aim, just +1 attack with all ranged the AT rolls, tenacity +1 to defend rolls. 2 up in fighting, the ranger's offhand AT penalty is reduced by 2, 4, 6, and 8. It's actually half as expensive as other classes. This is just harkening really back to the AD&D concept. I guess you could say Lego's he's got the 2 little long knives in the movies, but it really is going back to the AD&D offhand penalty, just kind of a role-playing tradition that if they want to fight with 2 weapons, they can. So switch into melee. Wilderness Lore, the last feature. The ranger gains a bonus on all checks made against natural hazards such as rock slides, sinkholes, pit traps, sweltering heat, and bitter cold. Against ill effects from beast and fey such as wyvern poison or siren song, and on checks made to climb, jump, run, and swim in the wild. He also gains a bonus to awareness, initiative, and stealth while in wilderness environments, ranging from +1 to +4. Sounds like a lot of stuff, but conceptually, if it's a hazard in the wilderness, if it's coming from a beast or a fey, you get a bonus with Wilderness Lore. If you're climbing, jumping, running, swimming, moving around in the wild, when you're awareness, trying to listen to a hidden foe coming up, initiative, starting combat, and stealth. So huge bonuses against in the wilderness. So the ranger might have a +2 on his agility. He's pretty stealthy, but he's in the wilderness. If he's got a +4, he has a +6. His initiative is higher. So again, it's kind of how you want to balance, the wilderness kind of survival abilities. The huntsman, just purely slaying of beast, and then just the mastery of the marksmanship. And all those 3 together, you can balance out a very interesting class. You can mix and match them, and they all work very well. If you just want to be a wilderness lord, just get very high. If you want to build this or that, get certain abilities, it's just how you build the character. But they're all very, very effective and make for a very, very good expert in the wilderness, which is really what the ranger is. But above any of the classes, the barbarian has some survival skills. The druid has some solid survival. It's more magical in nature, but they're really good. But the ranger, the druid are the top 2. Probably the ranger's actually a little bit better with just pure wilderness stuff. But yeah, really, really solid. All right, the ranger has proficiencies: survival, lure, and set snares. Lure. The ranger is able to pacify and charm animals and beasts. If the creatures have total vitality equal to or less than the ranger's wilderness lore percentile, that should say lure percentile. That is a change. So fortunately, I forgot to update that. Then they are pacified and will not harm the ranger as allies unless provoked. If the creatures have total vitality equal to or less than half the percentile, then they are charmed. So essentially, you can charm. You can either pacify, you're going in, you're trying to sneak in, and there's wolves outside. You just calm the wolves, you go inside, you get the stolen, let's say they've taken a who knows what in there, it's you sneak past them, and you can just pacify them, keep them from attacking, or you can actually charm creatures and make them it's like a charm animal ability in D&D, but it's a proficiency, and it's based on your actual how many points, what's your percentile and lore. So it goes up to 100. You could pacify up to 100 vitality worth of beasts, or you can charm lesser ones, and again at higher levels you can get some pretty powerful basically servants. Similar, it's kind of like dealing with the animal companion thing that just kind of doesn't work, and for various reasons, because they die off. You have another set of stats to keep track of. It's just Um, it works pretty well because it's temporary, but it's quite useful and can get you out of a lot of bad situations. There are also magic items that give you bonuses to it for one time, so you could try a much more powerful creature. It's really solid. Only the ranger and the druid get that. The druid actually gets a little more potent version because he has some sub features that increase its power. But it's really useful. And druids and rangers together, they help you in the wilderness so much. Set snares. The ranger can create natural traps to catch and harm enemies, such as tripwires that loose swinging logs and concealed pits. I give a little guideline generally. You make a check, and the damage is done to the first enemy that triggers it. I do have other rules. There's some magic items that give you like more powerful magical snares that are really potent. Um, but it's really up to the GM. But generally, you roll a 10 of your set snares, you set up a tripwire. The first orc that comes through takes the swinging log to the face or whatever it is and trips into the spikes and takes damage. And the barbarian also has this skill. The ranger's a little better at it. But if I do expanded content for RIN, I'll definitely, all the proficiencies will get detailed, more examples and things. But for now, it's want to keep all the instructions to a page for the classes and extra expanded stuff. I mean, there's a million different rules you could make for it. Survival. So this is really what survival is used for, is avoiding extraordinary hazards in the wilderness. For the most part, I mean, you're really not going to be hunting and finding water, but those are all elements that are there if you need them in certain kinds of games. Those can be, if they're more survival type games, you get shipwrecked on an island and you can play it that way. But I'll really give some safe camping sites. It's actually, there's a check. So when you get to the wilderness guide, it talks about survival. You can get safe resting places where you have no encounters. So if you survive high enough on the survival based on the difficulty of how dangerous the region is, survival eliminates that. I had a barbarian that saved the party many times because he found a cave to rest in. The hill giants were out trouncing about at night, and the party survived because of that. It also lets you identify um, beasts, their actual detailed, like what does this creature do? So if you roll high enough, some Fey and elementals to some extent, but yeah, you can identify, what is this monster's, what the details about those things. And then also herbalism. There is an alchemy and herbalism system in RIN that is really a treasure system. If you have it, you can craft certain things. As far as releasing, I don't have a whole lot of details on. A lot of it is kind of up to the GM. You find a spider gland and you make a survival check, and the amount of damage bonus that it will give to a weapon will be equal to the survival check. So I've done it with spider glands. That would probably be expanded content if anyone wants like detailed alchemy and herbalism. I can give examples, but it works. It's really fun. I mean, you can the ranger can use his survival to craft those kinds of things. The ranger begins with one weapon, one bow, one weapon buckler, shield or suit of light armor, some silver pieces, and a rumor of a monstrous threat in the region. That should be kicking off the game with pretty standard but pretty decent set of items. He gains a hit point base equal to his new level, as do most of the classes. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Every level you hit, you gain a hit point base. In addition to hit point base gained from either your huntsman and then your strength, con, and agility going up every time. You'll get +1. It'll go up by 4. So that's how you advance hit points in RIN. And D6 +4 to agility for attributes. D6 +4 to anything other than agility. D6 +4 to any attribute of choice. Pretty much standard. Features: Huntsman reaches 100, the ranger gains +8 hit point base and +2 to all checks and combat rolls instead of +1 with his hunted prey. This is huge. So you go on a hunt for ogres, now you have +2s to everything. It's a huge bonus. The numbers are pretty truncated and there's not a vast range, so a +2 bonus is huge on a D10. And you just become an expert huntsman. Marksmanship, +8 hit point base, +1 attack, defend, +2 damage, and an improved damage die. So now your D8s are D10s, your D6s are D8s, and so forth. More likely to hit, more likely to defend, do more damage, higher damage die when you crit, extra hit points. And then wilderness lore is just a bunch of hit points. So you're so rugged from the wilderness expertise that you can just have a bunch of hit points. And then proficiencies, just following the standard rules, they become D12s when they max out. You roll them. Again, that's the ranger. I think the people who like rangers have really enjoyed the RIN Ranger. It captures, like I said, kind of the essence. You have the expert huntsman, expertise with the bow, expertise in the wilderness, and then the set of proficiencies really provide a solid. The ranger also has a high pathfinding check. With pathfinding is a statistic in RIN for traversing the wastes. Just it determines on what conditions. Again, I said where the encounters happen when you have random encounters, and are you coming up on them downwind or hidden? You're in an advantageous position, or you're less advantageous, or you're getting surprised by them. When you have a ranger, you're much more likely to happen upon the creatures before they see you, have chances to prepare. So that's an element we'll go over when we get to the wilderness and civilization section in the book. And that's it. That'll do it for the ranger.